Good morning, everyone. Give just a moment for people to settle in. As you're taking a seat, I'd like to welcome you to worship with the community of the First Unitarian Church of Omaha. I'm Colette Piper, your worship associate for today. Whether you're attending online or in person, I am glad you've chosen to join us for worship. Worship, which means to remember that which is of worth. Thus we gather together in community weekly to reground ourselves in our highest values. Special welcome to visitors. This congregation is a community of all ages and abilities. It's a community with a rainbow of gender and sexual identities. It's a community of diverse cultural and class backgrounds. We draw from many sources of inspiration and share common liberal religious values. Whoever you may be, we welcome you to bring your whole self to this community. If you're joining us online, I encourage you to create a YouTube account and sign into whenever you attend online. This will allow you to participate in the comments for joys and concerns and more, such as today, to submit questions for Ask the Minister Day. You can also just subscribe to our channel and share videos you like with others. For those of you joining in person, you are invited to go downstairs to the common room after the service for coffee and conversation. Meanwhile, if you're logged into church Wi-Fi and don't need to be, please put your phone on airplane mode during the service. It is appropriate to acknowledge that the First Unitarian Church of Omaha occupies the traditional treaty lands of the Omaha and Otoe, Missouri tribal nations, whose sovereignty existed long before the state of Nebraska. We'd also like to express our respect to those Nebraska tribes, including the Ponca tribe, the Winnebago tribe, and the Santee Sioux tribe, as well as over 170 other tribes represented within the Omaha area. Do you have a few announcements? Let's connect with our community. Every June, we collect your donations and buy ad spots for the First Unitarian Church on KIOS Omaha Public Radio. We aim to connect with anyone seeking a faith community of love, diversity, and rationality. Our ads run on the primetime news shows and on the weekend quiz and talk shows. Flyers are available in the foyer and info in the e-news. Donations can be put in the collection plate, mailed to the office, or handed to Jean Wagner at any time. Please put KIOS in the check memo line. Thank you. We also like to remind you that the First Steps group is meeting after the service today in Merritt Lounge. Find out what's going on at the First Unitarian this week. You can use the QR code or links in the program, or grab printed e-news in the foyer. Now let's hear from Reverend Woodbury about today's unusual service format and how you can participate.
All right, did everybody get a note card in the sanctuary, a pencil? So this is Ask the Minister Sunday. You can ask a question of the minister, that's me, and have it answered during the service. Your question could be related to theology or ethics. It could have to do with the Unitarian Universalist tradition, or spiritual practices, or pastoral concerns. It might be related to current events in our church or world. Or it might be some other burning question or a simple curiosity you bring with you here as a seeker, or even something you wonder about me as the minister. Those online can submit your question in the YouTube comment area. You can enter your question in the comments at any time, and I will look through them when it's time for me to answer questions later in the service. If you're in the sanctuary, you can use the index card and pencil you received on the way in. Anybody still need an index card? You can raise your hand and okay, we got one over here. An usher will bring it to you. You can write your question during the prelude, and during the welcoming congregation moment, ushers will come down the aisles to collect the questions, so you can pass them down the rows at that time. The way this is going to work is I will answer as many questions as I can during the sermon portion of the service. I might not be able to get to all of the questions, so if I miss some, I may respond to more in future sermons, blogs, other forums. And if a question doesn't feel appropriate, I may just skip over it. There may also be times when it seems more appropriate to save out a question and talk individually with the writer. So if you're open to that possibility, you can write your name on your card, and then I might follow up with you individually. Please be authentic if you choose to ask a question, and I hope you enjoy this more spontaneous, off-the-cuff approach to worship today. Again, those online can put your comment in the question section of YouTube. So that's the scoop on our Ask the Minister service format. And now let's settle in with the prelude. At this time, I invite forward Charlie McMahon to light the flaming chalice. You can find chalice lighting words in your order of service or inside the front cover of the gray hymnal. Will you join me? Spark of the Spirit, cupped in earth's embrace, light of love, alive in all creation. As we kindle this flame, we rekindle our connection to the sacred web of life. Thanks, Charlie. Words of Lisa Friedman.
Spirit of life and love, why is there something instead of nothing?
Why do wishes sometimes come true when spoken beneath the stars?
Why, after millions of years of life on this earth, does death still sing?
Why is it so hard for people to learn to love one another?
Why does my heart laugh with the first flower of spring?
Questions rise up within our souls, born of fear and delight, sorrow and confusion.
Questions live within us, shaping our choices and our search for truth.
Help us to embrace them and to grow. I invite you to rise if that is comfortable for you and join in singing our opening hymn, number 1000 in the Teal Hymnal, Morning Has Come.
Thank
in the sanctuary forward, and Amanda Burton is going to assist you with a special time for all ages this morning.
Good morning.
Good morning. Good morning. Good morning.
Hi. Thank you, guys. How do I do? How do you do? Today we're going to be asking Reverend Shari some questions. So if you guys can think of anything there is that you want to ask Reverend Shari, then you can come up here with me. Parker, didn't you have a question you were asking? Yeah, come here.
Reverend Shari, what kind of things do you do to have fun, and when and how much do you do them?
That's a great question. You all like fun. I like fun too. Well, one thing I do to have fun is I really like to go hiking in the woods and see all the creatures and what's happening in nature and the seasons. I do that probably once a week away from home and 3, 4, 5 times in trails like right in our neighborhood. I also like to hang out with my family. I have a daughter who's 13 and my husband, and we like to play ping pong a lot. We have a ping pong table in our basement, so we are pretty fierce ping pong players. And especially in the winter when it's harder to get outside to move around, we play a lot of ping pong. Thank you for that question.
Anybody else have a question?
Nami,
Do you have a question?
how much do you like unicorns?
How much do I like unicorns? When I was in grade school and like elementary school and middle school, I used to actually collect unicorn statues. In fact, I had a cousin in Ames, and we would always give each other Christmas presents at Thanksgiving. Our families were all always together at Thanksgiving. And so I would get her something that she collected, and she would get me something that I collected. And she always got me a unicorn. So I had a whole shadow box full of unicorn statues, and my daughter has them now.
Anybody else have a question yet? You want to keep thinking? Okay, come on.
Raven, you can be next.
How long have you been here at church?
Yeah, so thank you for that question. I have been here about 3 years now. It feels like longer because the pandemic was such a weird time. We kind of lost time, you know, it was time out of time during that period. And I didn't get to meet a lot of you as soon as I would have liked to. So I'm really glad that I'm getting to know you better now.
Thank you for the answer.
You're welcome. So polite.
He said thank you for the answer.
Who else?
Raven's got one.
What is your
What is your favorite animal from Raven?
my
Favorite animal.
elephant?
Elephants, that's a good one. That didn't even cross my mind. I always say I'm a bird person. I'm allergic to cats, otherwise I would be a cat person because I really, really like them. But I had a canary when I was young, and I just loved that canary so much, and I used to sing to him, and he would sing to me. And canaries very shy. They're like wild finches, but I would bring him lettuce bribes. His name was Doc, like, what's up, Doc? And I would feed him lettuce until he got used to my hand, and then eventually he would land on my hand. And when I was sick or sad, he would even come and land on my shoulder. And I just love that canary so much.
Have any of you ever had a bird?
I don't have pet birds anymore because then I saw a movie about these wild parrots of Telegraph Hill in San Francisco. They were pet birds that had escaped and they'd formed their own flock. They're still there. And I decided that I would just enjoy the birds outside because I feel like that's better for the birds to be outside. And I still love them and I watch them. We have a bird feeder on our back deck and we've been seeing all kinds of birds come. And we've been seeing mommy and daddy birds feed their little baby birds from our feeder, which is really cool.
What is your opinion on snakes?
Snakes. You know, I think snakes have gotten a bad rap. Ever since that Garden of Eden story, right? And my husband also really does not like snakes, and I understand why some people find them scary. I guess it depends on if you have direct experience with snakes. And when I was younger, my dad had a garden, and there were these garter snakes in the garden, and I knew they were harmless. Actually, our neighbor kid, his name was Joshua, he once put a snake in our little pop-up camper that we had set up in our backyard to like dry off after it was wet in a camping trip. And I had to go into the camper and get the snake and take it back out and put it in the garden. So I probably don't feel as afraid of snakes as I should because I'm used to thinking of them as harmless, but there are some snakes that you should be very, 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 very careful about. You're scared of all snakes? Yeah. Yeah, I try to learn, like, what are the scary snakes in the place that I live now? Like water moccasins or rattlers or whatever it might be.
I'm not like super scared of them.
All right, here's our last question, and it kind of goes with what we were just talking to Reverend Shari about. In Sunday school, we do talk a lot about how we share this earth with other creatures and we take care of them. That's one of our principles that's hanging up in there, right? The web of life. So Reverend Shari, what's something that we can do as Sunday school kids that could support that?
That's a great question. Well, you know what my mind goes to is actually kind of something indirect, which is if we don't use stuff that we don't need or don't waste stuff we're not really using, like the less energy and stuff we use, the better we're caring for our earth. And that affects all the creatures who live on the earth and who want their place they live to continue to be kind of like it has been, that they're used to, you know, with the same kind of weather and the same kind of food that they've been getting and the same web of other life forms that they live with. So that's kind of an indirect answer. Think of a more direct answer. Well, one thing is that we can, if we don't have to drive somewhere, if we can walk or ride our bike, like to go to a play day with a friend, that's a way that is good for other creatures in our earth home to use our feet or our bodies to get where we're going. Well, thank you so much for coming and having a conversation with me, and I hope you know you can ask me a question anytime. I love talking to you. We're going to sing you out now. Okay, last chance to jot a question if you haven't already, and during this next section, the ushers are going to come forward and collect them from those in the sanctuary. If you're online, you can continue to put questions in the chat. So at this point, I invite Niva Kozin to come forward, and she has a moment to share with us a reflection from our welcoming congregation team.
Hello, everyone. I generally don't do a lot of this kind of stuff, but when the topic of gay rights comes up, I'm there. This is important. So what I'm going to talk about is it's Pride Month, and there's a Pride Parade coming up. And many times they talk about Stonewall, and people don't know exactly what Stonewall is. But in the summer of 1969, gay and lesbian customers rose up against police harassment at the Stonewall Inn in New York City. There have been many instances of harassment from the police before, and this time the people revolted. Many believe that this is the start of the modern queer civil rights movement. Pride Month honors this uprising. Our church has honored this movement also, and this remembrance is part of being a welcoming community. Sadly, the celebration of lesbian, gay, bisexual, transgender, and other, gender and queer Pride Month this June comes during a particularly difficult time in the struggle for their rights. Today, the United States faces a nationwide organized effort to enact legislation and policies that limit rights or attempt to erase LGBTQ identities and experiences from history. These efforts include book bans, censorship in schools, the denial of health care, and the limiting of participation in events for transgender people. The Human Rights Campaign, one of the premier rights organizations in the country, has declared a state of national emergency in the for LGBTQ people for the first time in 40 years. And it has released a web listing and pending legislation that would enact drastic changes. In addition, the American Civil Liberties Union is tracking legislation to curtail rights. At the time of the Stonewall Uprising in 1969, my son was born. He is now an out gay man of 54. He's not gay because he was born around Stonewall, but he turned out to be gay. So, together, he and I attended the 1994 march to celebrate the 25th anniversary of Stonewall. And I was asked to give a short speech in Central Park. It was an inspiring time. You feel the world is loving and accepting, but when you come back to reality, you realize there's much to endure and to learn. Just as many other movements in this country, change is slow. But that doesn't mean we won't keep trying or go back to being ignored, unsafe, and waiting silently for rights that others receive at birth. Small successes are important, and the people in this church, you, have given us a place to be welcomed. We appreciate that. There's a Pride Parade coming up that would be nice if a lot of us would go there. It's July 15th, Saturday, at 10 a.m., and I was given a couple different locations, Capital District or downtown. Does anyone know for sure where they're meeting?
Downtown
In the Capital District. Okay, Capital District down there. Okay, great. All right. So, at 10 o'clock on the Saturday, July 15th, we hope that a lot of you will go down there and march. So, thank you very much for your time.
Each week, we share our blessings with others through a community offering. Half of the loose currency in the offering plate is donated to a local cause which resonates with Unitarian Universalist values. If you are online or prefer to give via your smartphone, you can use the QR code or link provided. For the month of June, our Share the Plate recipient has been PFLAG. You may know PFLAG stands for Parents, Families, and Friends of Lesbians and Gays. Founded in 1973, PFLAG is the first and largest organization dedicated to supporting, educating, and advocating for LGBTQ plus people and their families. And we can celebrate Pride Month in many ways, including our financial support. The offering is gratefully received as we hear a gift of music from Jay Goff and Katrina Schmidt. Thank you. We come to the time for sharing of joys and concerns. When we share our joys, others may be uplifted with us. And when we share the challenges we face, our community can surround us with care. I've got a couple here that came in advance. Update on John Hruska. John was readmitted to the hospital late last week for further treatment of the concussion he sustained in an accident earlier this month. John and Linda appreciate all the expressions of care they've received from members of the church community. They hope to be home again soon after these latest interventions, and I'm sure cards are welcome. And a joy, yesterday the church received a bequest from the estate of Evelyn Whitehill. A member of our Sarah Jocelyn Society, Evelyn generously named First Unitarian to receive 10% of her net estate. She loved this church, and her gift will make a significant difference to our work for our members and the wider community. If you'd like to learn how you might join Evelyn Whitehill and other caring members in benefiting the church after your lifetime, you can check out the Sarah Jocelyn Society page on our website, firstuuomaha.org/SDS, or speak to John Wagner, raise your hand back there, John, who is leading this team. And I learned recently that Dixie Lemon, a beloved member here who started the Sarah Jocelyn Society, used to say of setting up estate gifts, "You'll never miss the money." So I don't think Evelyn's missing it now, but we are so grateful to her for her generous gift. What do we have online, Colin? Okay. Okay, I'm sure there are other joys and challenges among us which are held privately. Let's share a centering song with one another now, drawing into our circle of care all those who are experiencing life's ups and downs. We'll sing number 123, Spirit of Life. this music, let us continue in a mood of meditation or prayer. Each week we observe a period of silence so that we may open our hearts in compassion to those in our community who are suffering. After I lift up a pastoral prayer, we will observe a minute of silence for your own inward reflection. First, you may wish to check your posture. Take a deep breath as I share this prayer. Spirit of life, come unto me. By whatever name we know you, O Spirit of life, come unto us now. Be with us amid all the questions that swirl around us in our personal lives. What does this medical diagnosis mean? What do our kids need, and how can I give it to them? What can I hold on to amidst so much change? Move in our hearts all the stirrings of compassion. Compassion, Mother Spirit, those who face the most practical of questions, like how to put food on the table or when to end a relationship. Compassion for those who find it hard to live in a time of not knowing, when we are in between the old way of life and something new that is yet to emerge. Move in the hand, giving life the shape of justice. Daily, O God of justice, we see the forces of fear and division, the forces of authoritarianism, even fascism, amassing in our nation. Rearing up perhaps even in our own communities and families. Move in our hands that we may help to give life the shape of justice. A life where love is truly at the center, and all are beloved, and all are safe, and all are free. Roots hold me close. Spirit of tenderest care, help us each to feel those roots that can hold us close through hard and uncertain times. The roots of connection that hold us together in an interdependent web of care. The roots of traditions in our families and communities and personal practices. The roots of gratitude and joy for this marvelous and unexplainable existence we know as life on earth. Wings set me free. Spirit of renewal and transcendence, even as we are moored by these roots, we may yearn to soar. Wings set us free as we continue to grow and explore, as we try new things and create new ways of being, ways that can serve the next 7 generations, that can serve the creatures with whom we share our earth home. O great mystery, source of all creation, come to us as we listen for the questions that can guide us now, as we wait for the answers to emerge. Spirit of life, come to me, come to me. Time of silence for your own prayer or meditation. I've got one more item of joys and concerns that came in. Elaine Wells would like to thank everyone who has driven her to church appointments and lunches since she has needed that support. She says it's been good to get to know everyone better. We are always growing our list of folks who are open to sharing rides with folks who might need it to get to church. So if you're interested in being on that, you can drop me an email. All right, are you ready to play Ask the Minister? Am I ready to play Ask the Minister? I've got a basket full of questions here. I see one question online. If there's anybody else online who wants to submit some, you can. Let's see. Patricia asks, how could our congregation use large language models like ChatGPT to scaffold theological and spiritual discussions? Wow. I think we have to, there it came back, okay. A little excitement there, we lost our power for a moment. That's a fascinating question, Patricia. I haven't explored that as much as I would like to. I will share that my colleague, the Reverend Sarah Voss, is going to be speaking, I think, on related issues in July. So let's hear what, August, that's right, in August. So later this summer, we may have some wisdom from Reverend Voss about that. I have seen my other half try using ChatGPT to generate things in his line of work, and it's actually been very interesting. I actually have even had colleagues put in a couple of topics or prompts and get like a prayer spit out and provide interesting inspiration for one's own writing. So I guess that would be a thing that we could do is put in some topics and ask for discussion questions to be generated by the ChatGPT type thing to support our interactions with each other and get into some deeper issues perhaps. Okay, let's see. What is your favorite flower? Oh, it might be lilacs. I love the smell of lilacs in the spring, even though they don't last very long, but they're beautiful, and I love that smell. Let's see. Would you consider a sermon on the early origins or early UU church? Yes, I've done that before, and I definitely will again. That's going in my sermon pile. Where did you grow up? Tell about your family, and what church, if any, did your family attend? I grew up in Fort Madison, Iowa, which is in the very southeast corner of Iowa on the Mississippi River. I have two wonderful, loving parents. I was very fortunate, and an older brother. And we went to First United Methodist Church in Fort Madison, which has a different name now because they've had a merger with another church. My parents still go there. I had a good experience of what religious community can be like as people support one another in community, and learned important values and appreciated the model that I learned of Jesus as a teacher and as a person who cared for everyone and beseeched all those around him to care for everyone, even though that's not what society was set up to do. So that's a little about my church and family growing up. We were campers, so I think my love of nature, if you've heard me wax on before about hiking and trees and stars and so forth, started in campgrounds all over the place, walking from the campsite to the bathroom to brush my teeth at night and not turning my flashlight on because I could see better. My eyes were adjusted to the dark, and just being able to see like the outline of all of the vegetation and hear the little things moving and feel like I was a part of all of this. And this is really how humans are meant to live. That's my personal feeling. I have a fantasy about going back to kind of hunter-gatherer style living where we're much closer to the earth and its cycles and like direct contact with nature. Can you give us a quick summary of what happened at UUA General Assembly? Okay, so I mentioned the Article 2 changes. Another big thing that happened was we elected a new president of our UU Association. Susan Frederick Gray had served very ably for the last 6 years, and our new president will be Reverend Dr. Sophia Betancourt, who was, yes, if you know who she is, that's a clap. She was overwhelmingly voted in, 96% or something like that, I think. She is a theologian, has a very pastoral heart. She is a person of color herself and is very adept at navigating how we can move forward together effectively and in beloved community as a UU movement. I think she's going to be a really wonderful leader for our association. So that and Article 2. And one other thing of interest to our congregation, our endowment was placed in recent years in the UUA's Common Endowment Fund, and there was a business resolution about divesting from fossil fuels for all of the monies in the UUA's Common Endowment Fund. Now, the investment committee of the Common Endowment Fund has already done a lot of work of divesting and of shareholder advocacy, and there was pretty intense, heartfelt, principled conversation on both sides of this resolution about whether the course that some young people suggested would be more effective and more in line with our values than what was already happening. The vote that came down, ultimately, the resolution did not pass. And so that means that we're continuing to do some shareholder advocacy and continuing to play out the plans that the investment committee has had in place for a long time. For our own trustees of our endowment here at First Unitarian, I think it means that we're keeping our money where it is and can continue to expect to see returns that are good for our mission and that also are very thoughtfully in line with our values as Unitarian Universalists. And if you have any questions about that, I know several of the trustees of our endowment have been following that closely and can share more about it, including Joe Schaff. Let's see. What is or was your favorite type or genre of music from 1980s to the present day? I like singable music. I love the Nylons when I was in high school. I don't know if anybody remembers them. They were like a doo-wop, happy together. But I'd have to say Enya is my favorite genre of music, which is kind of, she's Celtic, kind of new age, very soothing. It's very good for my nervous system. What are your favorite lesser-known Unitarian hymns and why? I like tunes that have a little bit of a haunting feel to them. So we have several of them in the hymnal that are from Transylvania that I think are really beautiful. We sing one of them here occasionally. That Voice Still and Small. The other one, Find a Stillness, which has that kind of haunting feeling to it. So that's one. There's also one in the Teal hymnal. I think it's a Carolyn McDade. It's very earthy. Rising Green. It's number 1068. I don't think a lot of you know it, but I really, really love it. Actually, I had it at my ordination. And were there any hymns or songs highlighted at General Assembly? So I've been participating in General Assembly business only as an online delegate, so I haven't been able to do all the worship services this year, but I did do ministry days earlier this week, which had a lot of worship services. And I loved that we sang a lot of the what I would call centering songs in a very call and response way, and like layering on one harmony at a time until everybody around you is singing whatever they felt moved to sing, and it just really gets me out of my head and into my heart and my body and feeling connected with everyone around me, and I love that kind of singing. In fact, I have an aspiration to write some of those kinds of songs, and maybe that will happen one of these days. What is your favorite movie or TV show and why? I used to say my favorite movie was Contact with Jodie Foster because I love the big questions it asks. But I think today I'm going to say The Sound of Music. I never get tired of The Sound of Music. My daughter and I watch it every year as we're decorating the Christmas tree, and I just love those songs. Are you planning any adult education classes? I don't have a concrete plan yet for this coming year. I do love teaching classes. I've thought about doing one called, I can't quite remember the name. It's like Coming to Terms with Your Religious Past, because I think that's something that a lot of us can benefit from is if we came from a different tradition or a different flavor of UUism than what you're experiencing now, going through a process of reassessing what you got from that and what you value and want to keep and what you let go of so that you can move forward into who you are now. So that's what I'm considering. Let's see. Do you think that your profession puts undue pressure on your family to behave in ways that are uncomfortable or untrue to their own personality or values? That's an interesting question. I know in conservative traditions, preachers' kids are often a little wild because they're rebelling against that. I haven't seen that kind of pattern among the UU preachers' kids I know. I wouldn't want to speak for my husband. I think he probably does tone himself down a little bit. And that would be an interesting conversation to have sometime. How do we make ourselves welcoming to people from many different cultural backgrounds so that we can each be comfortable expressing ourselves in our own communication style? And as a predominantly white church and a predominantly white denomination and a predominantly white sanctuary, we can be a little understated at times. And so it's good to stretch a little bit and make room for people who are more joyous or gregarious in their way of being. How does your training help you cope with painful experiences, especially when congregants criticize you? Well, I think my meditation practice helps me more than my seminary training, in the moment anyway. Well, it helps because it helps me think about how groups like a church behave in very predictable ways, no matter what the group is or where they are. Humans tend to handle anxiety in a small number of ways that are fairly predictable. It helps me to see how each of us is just a human being acting in some of the ways that human beings act, and to know that it's not always about me, even when it seems to be about me, if that makes sense. What has been the best part so far of your experience here in Omaha? Well, you know what pops immediately to mind is my installation service, and I think that was because it was the fullest this building had been. Oh, that's my timer telling me to wrap it up. Yeah, the installation service, because there was such a full community. I got to start meeting people I hadn't even met yet after the year of Zoom church, my first year here, and I had many colleagues here, and really felt like we were connected with each other here, and we were also connected with a wider community of Unitarian Universalists, and to me that's very powerful. I have so many questions I didn't get to. Okay, close your eyes. If you'd like to go 5 more minutes with your eyes closed, put your hand up. Okay, put your hands down. Keep your eyes closed. If you'd like to wrap up now, raise your hand. Oh, that's pretty mixed. Okay, I'm going to do one more, and then we'll move on. Why do I feel like something's wrong with me even though everything is fine? You know, that makes me think about imposter syndrome, which I think happens to everybody, where we don't have confidence about what we're doing, even though we have the training and the skills and the commitment and all of that, which is something that almost everybody goes through. I don't know, I think it's kind of a human impulse to feel like, to question, am I where I should be? Maybe there's a little bit of that can goad us toward growing and becoming more and growing into our full potential. But that question also worries me a little bit. Why do I feel like something's wrong with me even though everything is fine? I don't know. Whoever this person is, I'd love to give you a big hug and talk more. And that might be something that a trained psychotherapist might help with, or even just a good friend, or we could have a pastoral care session. Thank you all for these questions. I'm sorry we didn't get through that many. I will try to answer more in other ways as time goes on. And yeah, I love being here, and I love being with you all and having more conversations like this. Our closing hymn is number 300, With Heart and Mind. So you can stand and do whatever feels good to your body.
To make our purpose
You may be seated. Words of Rainier Maria Rilke, translated by Stephen Mitchell, adapted.
Have patience with everything unresolved in your heart and try to love the questions themselves.
As if they were locked rooms or books written in a very foreign language.
Don't search for the answers which could not be given to you now, because you would not be able to live them.
And the point is to live everything.
Live the questions now.
Perhaps then, someday, far into the future,
You will gradually, without even noticing it, live your way to the answer.